Well, good evening, and welcome to the 2023 Ingersoll reading. I'm Martin Abraham. I am honored to be serving as the Provost and Vice President at SUNY Brockport. I'm also very pleased to be able to be here tonight with you here at the Rochester Educational Opportunity Center, which is on the 5th floor, the Brockport downtown facility. This really is a great place to be. This is one of my favorite places because of the role that this REOC plays in building meaningful lives in vibrant communities. A couple of weeks ago, I was in this very same room. We had a great gathering of people celebrating how this facility had literally changed a number of their graduates' lives, turned their lives around, people who had struggled early on and were able to, after in one case coming out of prison, build a successful career because of the facilities and the activities that we have going on here in the REOC. And I'm really pleased and thank the director, Executive Director Roosevelt Marius, who is gracious enough to allow us to use this venue for this purpose. Since its inception in 1967, SUNY Brockport's Writers Forum has brought hundreds of authors to Brockport and Rochester communities to read, talk, and engage our intellects and our emotions. Some of the illustrious authors who have visited us through this series include Joyce Carol Oates, Francine Prose, Kevin Young, and most recently last year, Pulitzer Prize-winning poet Sharon Olds. In addition to these prominent figures, the Writers Forum also provides a platform for emerging writers from a broad range of backgrounds and disciplines. I am grateful to this wonderful series continues to be a tremendous resource for our community. Tonight, we are joined by Allegra Goodman, a New York Times bestselling author and finalist for the National Book Award. Her latest novel, Sam, is a Today Show Read with Jenna Book Club selection. I am looking forward to listening to her this evening. At this time, I'd like to ask Professor Jim Wharton, Director of the Writers Forum, to come forward and introduce Allegra. Jim?
Thank you, Dr. Abraham. We're lucky to have the support, the Brockport Writers Forum is lucky to have the support of the administration and of the college. We can't all be good at everything, and I'm speaking about Brockport from something Brockport has done well since long before I was a part of the school. Brockport is good at bringing writers into this community. Please look at our website. We bring 5 writers to campus every semester, and once a semester we bring a writer to this REOC building in downtown Rochester. Next semester, Eric Gansworth and Onondaga writer will be back here in this room with us, and I hope you'll join us. I also want to acknowledge our friend, the late Professor Earl Ingersoll, who was a longtime supporter of this Visiting Writers series, and it's with his endowment now that this reading is happening, and it's named for him. Hi also to those of you on the live stream, and thanks to our TV crew, Mike Smith, John Lutz, Tim Pratt, and Hunter Wright for helping us out tonight. So I'm going to step aside in just a minute. Ms. Goodman will read, then she will take questions. There's a microphone over here. I'll run around for you to ask your question into the mic so that everybody out in internet land can hear you. And then at the end, we'll save time for a book signing. My friend John Bonzig is here from Liftbridge Books, Main Street in the village of Brockport, and he's got some of Ms. Goodman's books for sale as well as others. So please stick around, don't run off as soon as the reading is over. Let's visit a while. Allegra Goodman is the author of 6 novels and 2 collections of short stories. Actually, 7 and 3, I guess, because there's a couple on the way still. Her stories have appeared frequently in The New Yorker and have been included in the Best American Short Stories and O. Henry Award anthologies. She's a winner of the Whiting Writers Award and a finalist for the National Book Award in Fiction. She was raised in Honolulu, and she comes to us this week from Cambridge, Massachusetts. I'm a big fan of her work. Her fiction is full of intelligence and humor, warmth and curiosity, deep structure, plus a light touch, which she claims is in the wrist. I'm going to test that later. I don't know if it's going to work for me or not, but I'm going to try it. And at moments, her work provides, to quote an early story, an absolutely compelling feeling of continuity through the ages. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, Allegra.
Well, thank you for that beautiful introduction, and welcome to everybody and to the students I've spoken to already. It was so much fun to meet you and answer some of your questions. Some of the students have read Sam. For those of you who haven't read it, I'll tell you just a little about the book, and then I'm going to read from the opening of the book, and then I'd be happy to answer more questions. All right, hold on. And I just realized that my pages are out of order. Here we go. So Sam is a different kind of book for me. A lot of my books have multiple plots and subplots and many characters and many points of view, and even a lot of my short stories have different points of view in the story. An early editor told me once, Allegra, when you write a story, just pick one point of view and stick with it. And I never did. Sometimes I did, but often I didn't. I didn't get the memo about that. I just really enjoyed writing about what one person was thinking, what the other person was thinking of that person, and just playing everything off against each other, everyone off against each other. Sam is different. You know, I would describe many of my novels as sort of panoramic or more landscape in orientation. Pam is portrait. It's about one person, and she is a whole world unto herself, as each individual is. But we see everything through her point of view in this book. We see through her eyes. We feel what she feels. We are with her at every moment. It's written in the present tense, and we live and grow with her in the book. And what I was interested in doing was creating this dynamic portrait of a young girl, and the book starts when she's 7 years old, and it lasts about 14 years of her life until she's a young adult in college or going off to college. And I wanted to show how somebody matures during that time and how an energetic young kid can turn into a person, turn into a human. When the book first came out, or just before the book came out, in fact, my publisher sent me to the New England, let me get this acronym right, the New England Independent Booksellers Association Conference, which was in Providence, Rhode Island in last September. And what they did was sort of like a bake sale. They had each writer who was there, which is about 20 writers, each had a different table. And we had stacks of early copies of our books, like the advanced copies, not the published books yet. And booksellers would come by from all of these different places in New England, and we would talk about our book and hand them out to the booksellers. And it was just an early way to get them hopefully excited about our work. And different booksellers would come up to me and say, so what's your book about? And you know, I'd be sitting there with my copies of Sam with the picture of the young girl on the cover and the big hot pink letters that say Sam. And one of the booksellers said, so what's the genre exactly? Is this adventure, romance, mystery, horror? And I said, well, it's a coming-of-age story, so all of the above, you know. It's when you're growing up, I said it's about a girl becoming a human. And when you become a human, you encompass all of those genres. So in this book, the book begins when Sam is a little girl, 7 years old, and the language of the book is young, because Sam is young. And as the book progresses, and Sam progresses and grows, the language of the book changes and evolves, and it becomes more sophisticated. But I'm going to read to you from the opening of the book, and here she is, very, very young. When I gave a reading at a bookstore when Sam first came out, which was in January 2023, the bookstore owner said to me that she was surprised when she heard me read from the opening of the book, because she said it was like looking at an album of her kids when they were younger and saying, oh, she was so little, because she had gotten to the end of the book and forgotten how young she was at the beginning. So although the book is only about one person, a tremendous journey takes place in this book. A lot of a lot happens. She travels very far. The book is, she never leaves Beverly, really, Beverly, Massachusetts, which is a pretty small town, but she travels very far in her experience, in her heart, in her life. So here's what the book sounds like in the opening. There is a girl, and her name is Sam. She has a mother named Courtney and a dad who is sort of around, sort of not. He lives 10 minutes away, but he is not always home. Courtney says, that's the whole point. What is? Sam asks. He's never anywhere. Yes, he is. He's somewhere. Very funny, Courtney says. Sam is 7, and she never stops. She never helps either. Courtney is exhausted all the time. But it's not just Sam, it's Noah. Noah is 2, and he has a teddy named Bill. He got a plastic ark for his birthday, but he only has 1 lion and 1 zebra left. You can't teach Noah. You can't even scare him. He thinks No is his name. Sam climbs up inside the door jambs to get away from him. If you want to know how, just take off your shoes and socks. You have to be barefoot. Stand in the doorway to the kitchen and spread your feet as far apart as they can go. Wedge your feet into the frame. Inch 1 foot up, then the other. Inch up some more. Stop, or you'll bang your head. Just stay there. Brace your feet against the wood. Courtney says, you know what, Sam? This is getting old, because Sam likes to stay up there so long. It is not cute. The day her dad comes over, Sam tackles him. Where were you? Are you back? When did you get back? Before he can answer, she wedges herself into the doorframe. Hey, monkey, her dad says. When did you learn to do that? Courtney frowns. A long time ago. He just looks up at Sam. Ready? Yes. Okay, let's go. Sam jumps down on him. Where? I don't know. He's teasing, but she doesn't care. He's a jet. He's a plane. He's a parachute. He holds Sam by the heels, and pennies start falling from her clothes. She is raining pennies that were never there before. But that's what happens with her dad. Stop that, says Courtney. Come on, Mitchell. Noah lifts his arms, even though Mitchell is not his dad, and calls out, me! Mitchell, stop. Sam is wobbly when Mitchell sets her down, but she recovers fast. Where? Topsfield. Yes! She picks up the pennies. Then she runs to get her purse, and Noah runs after her. Sam sits on her bed and counts out her dollars. When Noah tries to climb up, she explains, Noah, when you get older, you can go to the fair. Where's your hoodie? Courtney asks Sam. It's going to be cold, and Sam will be sick if her dad stuffs her full of junk. Cotton candy is not dinner. Sam races out to Mitchell's car, which coughs a lot. What's wrong? Courtney asks from the doorway when Mitchell tries to start it. It's fine, says Mitchell. The car coughs again and then again. In the back seat, Sam shuts her eyes and prays silently, please, please, come on, I'll be your best friend. The car keeps wheezing and coughing. Courtney picks up Noah to prevent him from running off. There are leaves everywhere. 2 oaks fill the front yard, and a beech tree spreads out on the side. 1 rake isn't enough. It's an ocean. It's a tidal wave of leaves. You've got a dead battery, Courtney says. No, it always does this. Before Courtney can say anything else, the engine catches. We're out of here, shouts Mitchell, and they are hurtling down the road. The day is faster. The trees are brighter. The road is twistier. Sam's house is gone, along with Courtney holding Noah up above the leaves. The fair is bigger than 100 football fields. You have to park miles away and take shuttle buses. On the bus, Sam gets the window, and Mitchell sits next to her. They are both wearing hoodies. Mitchell's is Red Sox. Sam's is gray but warm. The pockets in front are connected so you can tunnel your hands inside. Her money is $9.26, folded into a calico change purse with the face of a cat. The clasp snaps shut between pointy ears. Mitchell pays admission, and then he buys tickets. He and Sam stay away from the games, because that's how they get you. They head straight for the rides. Not the zipper, because it makes you sick. Not the Ferris wheel, because it's a waste. They ride the pirate ship, the Vertigo, and the Raptor twice. You fly over all the people and the arcades and the food trucks and the kiddie roller coaster. When Sam is a velociraptor, she doesn't care about the cold. It starts drizzling, but Sam and her dad ignore it. They lick cotton candy and their tongues turn blue. They share a fried onion, exploded like a flower. They gorge themselves on kettle corn. Mitchell holds the bag as they walk through barns of fancy chickens and weird rabbits. There's a milking demonstration, but it's postponed because the cow sits down and won't get up again. Rain pings the metal roof of the exhibit hall, and Sam buys red whips and a miniature china sheep. She can eat the red whips now and have the sheep forever. Mitchell and Sam sit in the competition barn, and Sam knots the long, thin strands of red whips together. Then she eats the knot. Her delicate sheep is wrapped in tissue in a brown paper bag. She's carrying him kangaroo style in her front pocket. Outside, the ground's turned to mud. The competition barn smells like wet sawdust, but the horses in the ring are decked in braids and silver. When the rain stops, it's cold and soggy, and mud sucks your shoes, but so what? Sam and Mitchell watch men climb a sky-high ladder to dive into a tiny wading pool. They go to a pig race with little white pigs, the cartoon kind with corkscrew tails. It's pork chop by a nose. Can I get a pig? Sam asks. What do you think? Mitchell answers. He always does that, asking questions back at you. He never says no. Courtney says no to everything. She is allergic to all animals, including fish. Can I go up there? Sam asks. It's a giant trampoline, but the lines are long. Mitchell says, do we have time? Then all at once, he sees the tower. They both see it. You have to tilt back your head to see the top. Handholds on the tower look like confetti. The idea is you strap on a rope and climb up any way you can, and if you get to the top, you ring a bell. I want to do that, Sam says. Can I do that? It's annoying because it costs extra. That's how they get you, even after you pay admission and buy tickets. Also, it looks wet. You really want to go up there? Asks Mitchell. Yeah. You think you can get to the top? Sam catches the excitement in his voice. He wants her to try. He thinks she can get up there, even though he says it's harder than it looks. They wait a long time, almost as long as it would have been for the trampoline. Sam shivers in her rain-soaked clothes. Mitchell would give her his own hoodie, but it's wet too. He says, maybe we should try something else. Sam hands Mitchell her china sheep in its soggy paper bag. She isn't trying something else. She's got her eyes on the wall and the people trying to reach the bell. One guy makes it. Then there's a kid who gets stuck. When you can't climb anymore, the man with the other end of your rope starts bringing you down. Huddled together in line, Sam and her dad inch forward until finally, one of the ropes people calls out, young lady. Sam runs up the stairs to the platform where they hand you a helmet and strap ropes onto you. She's wearing a harness around her waist and between her legs. The rope is thick and long, and it will keep her safe if she slips and starts to fall. But that won't happen. She's already climbing with her right foot on the lowest foothold. The holds are big and close together, so she can climb foot over foot and hand over hand. The hard part is her shoes. They're wet and mushy. She wishes she could take them off, but it's too late. She can't get rid of them, even though they drag her down. She doesn't look. She's concentrating, inching up, one hold at a time. Her shoes are heavy and her hands are small, but she makes it up halfway, and then the hold starts spreading out. She keeps climbing, foot after hand and hand after foot. Her hands are freezing. Her fingers are so cold she has to stop. She's balancing with foot and knee braced against a big hold, and she takes her right hand and rubs it on her shirt. Then she switches and rubs her left hand. Resting there, she hears the music of the fair, the carousel, the games, a prize for everybody. Everybody wins. From far below, she hears her name. Sam, are you done, Sam? She's not done. She's just catching her breath. After a minute, she feels better, but she's stiff when she reaches for the next hold and slips, heart pounding. Without the rope, she would come crashing down, but that's not what scares her. She's afraid she'll lose her turn. Then she'd have to wait in line again. She grabs a knobby yellow handhold, then a red. She's up so high she cannot stop. She's beyond everybody but the lights, gold zipper lights, red striped lights from the Raptor. She is a cold monkey. Her teeth are chattering. Her arms are aching as she reaches higher and higher. She drags her feet up, and each one weighs 100 pounds. She lives for every tiny resting place. She stops wherever she can balance. Her fingers are numb. But there it is, the metal bell. She lurches up and slams her palm across its face. Ding! In glory, she glides down to the platform where the ropes person unties her. Mitchell and a few people in line are clapping. Look at you, the ropes guy says. Her face is streaked with dirt and rain and sweat. Her dad buys her hot mulled cider and a purple glow stick. Suddenly, it's pouring. Everyone is leaving all at once, but you can't just jump in your car. You have to wait for the shuttle. The buses are so crowded, there aren't any seats at all. Mitchell stands with his arms around Sam to protect her. Crazy kid, he tells Sam as he rubs her frozen hands. And she feels grateful and powerful and famous. Thank you. So I'd love to answer any questions that you might have. Oh, yes, in the back.
Hello.
Hello.
Do you have a writing process, not just in your, maybe you have a routine that you have day to day, and then also what's your planning? Do you plan your novels out or just kind of see where they go?
So my writing process has evolved over the years. It depends on what else I'm doing. But I like to work in the morning. I'm not a night person, so this time of night when it's dark, forget it. I don't really like to write at night. But I like to wake up early and do some writing in the morning. And then I'll do like another session in the afternoon if I'm not teaching or giving a talk or doing other stuff. So usually sort of 2 sessions of about 2 to 3 hours each. And often in my afternoon session, I'll rewrite what I wrote in the morning. And sometimes if I'm working on another project, I will even work on like this project during the morning and then another thing in the afternoon, whether it's usually another book. Interestingly, I also write short stories, and over the past 15 years, I write them out only on Sundays. So I write novels during the week and short stories only on Sundays. And I'll tell you why I started doing that. My daughter was in a rowing club where we lived near the Charles River, and the kids were learning how to row in this community boathouse. And the rowing sessions were from like 9 to 11 on Sunday mornings. And I would take her there and then go to the Starbucks on Sturrow Drive, not far from the community boating. And I would just sit there and work on a story during that time. And I got in the habit of writing stories on Sunday mornings from that. I'm a big believer in habit and routine. And I find that if you set aside a certain time or place, even if you only have an hour or two, your imagination and your body and your mind will get used to saying, oh, this is my time to write. So for me, that became the Starbucks on that street. And even after she stopped doing the rowing club, I would find a place and time to do not rowing, but short stories on Sunday mornings.
Hi. So earlier when we were talking, and you also said this is a bit of a departure from your other stories, kind of like an experiment for you. Mm-hmm. Is there something you learned from this experiment that you hope to continue in your next books or the things you're working on right now?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think I've learned from all of the things that I've written, including the things that have not succeeded. Maybe I've learned the most from my failures, in fact. I think something that I've learned from this book, and I'm continuing to learn, is to be concise, to make the words count, to make the events meaningful, to plant seeds early that will then pay off in the end. And that kind of efficiency is something that I have been learning and take forward with me in my other books as well. Yes, Jim?
And I can vouch that first chapter that you just read, there are little packets of things that go off throughout the rest of the book. down to the very last. I didn't even realize the connection between the ending of the book and the ending of the first chapter until you read it just now.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot
I'm a very
packed in there.
symmetrical writer.
Hi again.
Hello.
So it is something so amazing about hearing the actual writer read their writing.
Oh.
So I was very curious about the narrator. Remember I asked you about the
Yes.
narrator? And so thank you for letting me hear the narrator's voice.
Oh, thank you so much. And I know that you have a lot of great writers coming to your university, and it really is special. Something that I really enjoyed as a student was hearing the writer read their own work. And a lot of times there are wonderful people reading audiobooks, and they perform the work beautifully, but there is something unusual and interesting about hearing how it sounded in the writer's head. So that's why I think reading aloud is special in that way. Thank you.
I'm curious about the sort of process of going from writing a 7-year-old to, whatever she is in the end, 20 or whatever, whether you wrote it that way and kind of finding the voice of a 7-year-old versus the voice of a 20-year-old, and if you, as you were writing, where I'm starting as a 7-year-old and I'm just going along, or if it's, now I have to write some of the 20-year-old, but I forgot about the 7-year-old part that I have to write.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I started when she was 7 with these lines, with this scene that I just read to you, and I grew her and I grew the book from there. So for me, it was most helpful to do it that way. And then there are many writers who will maybe start in the middle of a story, or write a chapter from the middle and then use it later and rearrange things later on, and that's totally valid. But I think in this case, with this book, where I was really trying to show somebody's growth, it was most helpful for me to start when she was young and then follow her in a linear way as she grew and matured. Yes.
I just wanted to ask, why start at 7 years old and not when her parents were still together?
Well, I think her parents broke up, early. Why did I start at 7? I think 7 is an interesting age. She's still little and eager, but her mind is developing. When you're 7, you're in school, you're learning to read and write, and it's sort of the beginning of the age of reason, in a sense. 7 was an important age for me. That was when I decided to be a writer. Sam isn't figuring out what she wants to do with her life yet, but she's starting to climb, and that becomes essential for her. So I think 7 is a special and sort of magical age. And I remember my daughter when she was 7, and that was an important year for her as well. So that's why I chose that.
Hi again. So towards the end of the book, Sam meets a lot of new friends, different people come into her life, and she's kind of able to kind of come into herself. Do you think that's important, as a writer or just in general, to find people outside of your families that you can kind of look at yourself in a different way? I think for Sam, towards the end, we see a lot of her growth comes from people that she hasn't known her whole life.
Yeah. She has to develop friendships and relationships outside of her family. Yeah, I think that is part of growing up. She has to figure out whether she wants to do that, and it's challenging. She has, but all along she does have these friends that in different times of her life. Hallie sticks with her, although her background is very different, much more privileged than Sam's. And she has different relationships with men throughout her life as well. So yeah, I think that was important in her development. I wanted to show that. I wanted to dramatize that. I wanted to also show how alienated she felt in school. And that's a big part of her growing up. She never really fits in her high school. And I enjoyed writing those scenes. I did not like high school very much myself.
Back and forth, me and you, huh, Jen? just from what you just said, I like to know, when you write, do you write from your heart? Do you write from your mind? Do you, are you in a certain headspace when you're writing emotional things? Because there were a lot of emotional aspects to the story, like the situation with Sam and her coach. Very emotional, subtly written, where we had to say, wait a minute, she was only, and he was,
Yeah.
wait a minute, this isn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And as a mom
Mm-hmm.
that you are, was that difficult?
Well, I think when you write something and you're really fully engaged in it and you're in the zone, you write from your head and your heart and you bring everything that you know to it. So you want to leave it all on the page, essentially. And there were times when I was very young, when I first started writing seriously, I wrote very funny stuff. My stuff was funny. I still have a sense of humor in all of my different work, but my work was originally very satirical, and I would make myself laugh when I was even writing my own work, and that was such a pleasure, and I would really enjoy that. Then I got older, and sometimes I laugh when I write something. But a couple of times in this book, I made myself cry when I was writing it, and you may experience that as well when you're writing something. When you're so attached to the character and you feel it so deeply, and that's also it's working. You know you're engaged, like you know it's real, like it's authentic, even if no one ever reads it. And that's a beautiful thing about making art. To be able to express that. To take your own emotions and your feelings and transform them or project them or enact them through another life on the page. So.
You probably know this line. I think it was Doctorow who said writing a novel is like driving a car at night with, you can just see so far.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if, for you as a writer, does that ring true to you? Do you have sort of a clear sense of the wider landscape? Is there a lot of improvisation? Do you surprise yourself?
Yes. Does everyone know this famous quote by Doctorow? So he said, it's meant to be comforting to a novelist. He said, you don't have to know the whole thing. Think of yourself, it's like being in a car at night. You can only see as far as your headlights can shine, but you're still going to get there the whole way. Just look as far as you can. And I really like that quote as well. That said, I try to see farther ahead. I try to make plans. I try to have a map next to me or a GPS of my own devising. So it's a combination of planning and improvisation. There's a lot of improvisation that goes into it. I would also say, in answer to the quote, although I love the quote so much, I would be like, or you could just pull over and wait till morning, I am a morning person, but it's sort of like in the clear light of day, you will see it differently. You don't have to just keep going in the dark. It's stressful. I don't like driving in the dark. With my lights on, only seeing a little inch. What if something jumps on me, and like the deer come out of the woods or something, and I hit the deer, or. So it's always, when you're creating something, when you're doing a creative work, it's a combination of improvisation and control. And it's tricky to find that balance and to know which to go for. And that's part of the practice of it. That's part of what you learn as you go along. So I make lots of plans and I change lots of plans, and I organize things and then I improvise quite a bit, and it's sort of a dance that a lot of writers do.
Hi. So you talked about writing with your mind and heart, right? And going with the flow. But writing is not as spontaneous a performance as you are speaking right now and you're talking to us.
Correct.
When you finish speaking, you go back and you can reflect on it, but in writing, you have a chance. So do you do that? Some things that make you emotional, or make you feel deeply, does it happen that you go back and you look at it from the perspective of a reader that doesn't exist yet, because your writing hasn't been published yet. So you are actually looking at it from the perspective of an imaginary reader. Do you want to change things at that point? Do you make decisions from that perspective? Okay, it was emotional, it came from the heart, but maybe not at this point, or I'm just thinking aloud.
That's very, very fair. This is like where you pull over the car. And
Yes.
Yeah, and the clear light of day. And I'm a big believer in that too. That you can write and you can be inspired, but time is your friend there. So put it aside. Don't show it right away. Come back and look at it with fresh eyes, and then say, "Oh, does this still work? Does this still make me feel sad? Does this still express what I wanted to say? Can I improve it? Or maybe it belongs somewhere else. Maybe it doesn't fit." So over time, you can make those choices and revisions. That's why you have to be super patient when you're a writer, and the first draft is often not your best. A lot of times people think that like your first impression is like the most authentic. But I have found that often the first thing that you write is not the most authentic necessarily. It could be like full of cliches because you have so much cultural clutter inside your head, and it's maybe your second or third or fifth attempt that really delves deeper and gets more authentic. So again, time is your friend. You have to be patient. That's something I'm still learning. Unfortunately, I'm not a very patient person, which is hard if you're a novelist. And your books take a few years to write, and the imagined reader is still far away waiting for you. But I do think, and it's interesting, you made the distinction between like expository speaking like I am now and writing which is so composed. But I think of writing as a performance. Even though I haven't seen my audience yet, I haven't seen my reader yet, when I wrote these lines about Sam, I was enacting this child, and throughout the book, I saw it as a performance. And I would say to those of you who are writing, it's good to have notes and prepare for your performances, even if they are improvisatory. So one of the things that I got used to doing, this goes back to the question about writing routine, and particularly for those of you who are students, who have other responsibilities, who have a day job, as most writers do, teaching, working somewhere, taking care of people. When you're writing a novel, especially, it's really easy to drop the thread, and it's hard to pick up again because you have a lot of interruptions. And so I got in the habit of trying to write a few notes to myself in the evening, not trying to write, but try to just write notes of what I was going to do the next day, so that when I came back to the theater of my imagination to do that performance that was going to go out to the world years later, I would have something to go on. So that's another good thing to do. Yes, in the back. And then the front.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Your characters were all very lovable, and I'm curious if you drew inspiration from any people around you to create these characters.
Well, thank you. Well, I love the characters. I love the people in the book. I am very much inspired by the people around me, but again, they might not be recognizable because I am a fiction writer, so I take certain traits and I transform them. I mentioned my daughter, who was a rambunctious young girl, and I was definitely inspired by her when I wrote this book. And she later read the book. She's 21 now. She read the book and she said, I recognize some things. She used to climb the door jambs. She did a few of the things that Sam did. She hated reading, like Sam. She's a very different person. And but she said later, I take credit for all of Sam's good qualities. And I did dedicate the book to my daughter, Miranda, who is now a senior in college. And I've written a new book, and she said, oh, should I read the new book? And I was like, if you want to, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. And she said, is it dedicated to me? And I said, no, I dedicated my last book to you. I'm not dedicating all of my books to you. And she said, well, I only read the ones that are dedicated to me. But I think that if you're a writer and you enjoy people and you observe people and you listen to them, listen to how they talk, look at them, think about what they look like, how they walk, how they act, how they interact with each other, then your characters will be alive, and they will be lovable because they will be human, even if they're flawed, like all of us are. Yes, in the front.
I just finished reading The Chalk Artist, and I was struck by how focused the book is on interior life. And even though there is a setting, and there is even an implied time period, we overhear people talking about some politics in a bar. Mm-hmm. I felt as though those things were almost inconsequential. Can you talk about the novel as an investigation of the interior life?
Yeah, I think that I'm really interested in interior life. I'm interested in character, and all my plots come out of character and what people want, what they're thinking about, what they remember, how they experience each other, and how they interact. And I study people, and that's really my subject in all of my books, whether the character is a young climber like Sam, or whether she is a scientist working in a laboratory, or a teacher, or an entrepreneur. Whatever these people do, my subject is the people, not what they do necessarily, and what they believe, what they think, how they find their place in the world. Those are the things that interest me. And when I was very young, and I was thinking, can I be a writer? Like, I always wanted to be a writer, but is this really gonna happen? My first published story is a story called Variant Text. And I can tell you the moment when I thought, I'm gonna be like a novelist, I'm gonna be a serious writer. And I was writing about a character who was a middle-aged academic in England, who was an Orthodox Jew but did not believe in God. And I wrote about this, and I said, he had always enjoyed this contradiction in himself, and he nurtured it. And then I thought, wait, I can do that? I can write about that? I can talk about somebody who has a contradiction in himself that doesn't make sense, and somebody enjoying that contradiction, and then I can have him being aware that he enjoys that contradiction. And that kind of analysis at that moment, and I was like 17 years old, I was like, I am a writer. This is what I'm interested in. This is what I want to do. So it's those kinds of things. It's the complexities of people that really, really interest me. And looking at them from different angles, from the inside sometimes, many times, and also from the outside. So Sam sees Courtney from the outside. We don't get Courtney's interior life in this book. You choose who to show the interior and who to show the exterior. But we get Sam's view of Courtney and what she means to her. And that enriches Sam's character. So all of those different ways of refraction, really, really interest me. So I am kind of a portrait artist in many ways. Yes?
From your conversation in the classroom, I figured you like movies too. So if Sam is made into a movie, because we actually read another book, who's a writer whose book is turning into a movie. So if this one is made into a come-of-age movie, who do you see Sam, which actress?
Which actress?
Yeah, who do you see?
Gosh, I don't know. It would have to be somebody very young, I think. And maybe there would have to be like a young child and then an older Sam. I don't know how that would work exactly. Maybe somebody unknown. Maybe somebody who isn't a famous actor. Because when you have a famous actor, you always think, oh my gosh, I love that actor. But you're always aware that person is your favorite person is in the thing. If you see Tom Cruise, he's always Tom Cruise in whatever role he plays because he's such a huge actor. Or, some of these other really famous people. So maybe the best person to play Sam would be an unknown person who never acted before. Like in that movie with Paul Mescal and the young girl, After Sun, which was an independent movie that got a lot of press, and there was an 11-year-old girl named Frankie something, an Irish girl, and she sort of like Sam, not too girly, and she'd never acted before in her life, and she gave this incredible performance. So maybe I'd want somebody like that if it ever happened.
Do we have one more question before book signing? Anybody been holding one? Ken that you want to ask? Paul, I knew you had a question. I looked at you, and your face said, I have a question.
So I know you have short story collections. I've never read them, but I was interested in kind of the process of picking what to put in, or was it just what you were writing at the time? How much was kind of outside influence of you should put this in, or if there was like a theme?
That's a really good question. I've written my first book of short stories, which was my first book. It was sort of what I was writing at the time. And the stories all were from that period of my life, and they all kind of went together because that was the kind of writing that I did at that time. My second book of short stories, The Family Markowitz, all the stories were about people in this family, so they were all linked together. And they all kind of matched each other in that way. And my third book of stories, which is coming out later, is also about a family with 3 generations of this family. So it has stories about the grandmothers and stories about their grown children, their middle-aged children, and their partners and their children. So all of the stories in that, it's almost like you could read it as a novel from beginning to end. It's not like a sort of a album of different kinds of things. They all go together because they're tied together by these relationships of the family, and the family is viewed from different points of view, from these different members of the family. So I've done it both ways. To answer your question. I also think that you have a great professor here. I was always taught in pedagogy class when I was in graduate school that when you ask a question, don't give up yet. Allow an uncomfortable silence to fall, and somebody will come up with something. So we see a perfect example of that here. Well, thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you so much.